What up, y'all? Happy 4th. So today we're going to be replacing a water pump and a serpentine belt in my whip right here. It's a Chevy Trailblazer LS, and yeah, she sounds really bad, so let's go ahead and get to it. So the first thing I did was just drain the fluid, drain the coolant. So as you see right there, and pretty much what you're gonna do, you're gonna go under here and just disconnect this right here, this radiator hose going in the bottom. That way you can get all the fluid drained. It'll probably drip for a little bit, but you know, a lot will come out. And we keep this pan under here because when we replace the water pump, some more is gonna come out actually. So got the coolant draining. So got the coolant draining. I'm gonna go ahead and just disconnect this right here. Okay, this is just for the fan clutch. It goes in right there, so you gotta pinch that bitch and kind of jimmy it out. Sometimes it might get a little stuck. You might have to use 2 hands. Not a big deal. Oh, and first, make sure you just disconnect your battery just in case. And so anyway, right here, gonna disconnect this hose as well. And if you drain it from the bottom, then you don't got to worry about it pouring out on here. Some people I see, they take this one out and there's a bunch of coolant coming out because they didn't empty it out or nothing like that. So gonna go ahead and get you to the next step. All right, so with these makes and models, they put this crap in the way so that you can't actually pull the fan shroud out. Some people have cut U-shapes around here. It doesn't do any damage to the fan shroud. It just makes it easier to get out. I don't have access to that tool, so what I actually did was I purchased me a little fan clutch holding tool, okay? And if you get a little tool rental when you get your parts, then it'll come with this right here. And this is just the 1.5" open end, or 36 millimeter, and that will fit on this right here. That will fit on this major bolt. Okay, your fan clutch holding tool, it adjusts, and so what you'll do is you'll adjust it to the right size and you'll put it in there, and it'll hold on to these 2 joints right here. Okay, and when you put it on there, you just want to prop it on this box right here, and by doing that, it'll allow for you to loosen that don't drop a tool inside your car like I just did. It'll allow you to loosen this bolt right there. Okay, now when you loosen this up, it's going to be kind of stuck right on the end here, and it's going to make it hard to pull the fan shroud out. So what you're going to do is you just kind of you know, jimmy it around this. Essentially, you'll be able to pull it from that about this far and just slide it up and have it clear these bolts, and that will allow for you to have more play with the fan shroud as you're pulling it out. Don't forget to pull your trans cooler lines right here. Okay, they just pop right off and make it a lot easier. So when you're pulling this out, again, just remember to be careful of your trans cooler lines. They should have a little play in them, that way you can move the shroud. It will kind of get a little stuck, just a little bit, but it's plastic, so a little strong pull and you'll be able to get past that part. But just make sure that you're careful of your radiator as you go to pull it on out, and once you get it clear of everything, it should just slide on out, and then that's your bang bang. And then this is your fan clutch right here. Sometimes you got to replace that as well. I'm not replacing mine just yet. I'm just gonna make sure that I just didn't feel like paying another $200, so I'm not gonna replace it just yet because it doesn't seem like it's in bad condition. It's just the water pump, and so bam, now you got all this space to work with. So, and you just want to make sure that you keep your coolant pan underneath, because when you remove the water pump, a lot of coolant's going to come out, and you don't want that to spill all over the place. And so we're going to work on getting the serpentine belt off. And if you're worried about it, there's usually a diagram right there. shows you how exactly that shit goes on. Now, you could also take a picture of it, but just make sure that you do before. And the serpentine belt isn't cracked or anything, but it's been spilling coolant for a minute, so I'm gonna replace this anyway just because it's covered in coolant and I don't like that. So yeah, let me get to that. We're just gonna loosen these belts right here. Don't detension your belt just yet. It makes it easier to just work with all this first. Detension it after you get these things off. So, and it's 13mm bolts that I've already loosened up, so that way we know how to get this off. And always kind of keep the same pattern for every bolt that you have. Once you get those 4 bolts off, which should be pretty easy because you have the belt on, you're just going to loosen the tensioner. You can get a tool for it, right? When you purchase your water pump, I always just get a little tool rental. And what you're actually going to do is, see that right there? That's where it goes. And all right, so you get that in, and really, it's just going to do that and loosen your belt. That way you can pull the belt off. Pretty simple. Now, occasionally, the fan pulley, it gets stuck on this and it gets hard to pull it off the water pump. Make sure you get a little mallet. I didn't have one, so I had to run next door. But yeah, you just give it some wax on the side and it should come off fairly easy. And here we have the water pump, and as you can see, that baby sucks. She is in poor condition. So we're just gonna loosen up these bolts right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 of them, okay? Now when you take them out, keep track of each one's size. If they're not all the same size, you want to make sure they go back into the hole that they match up with. Sometimes they are in fact different sizes. Now, like I said before, you want to keep your pan right underneath, because when you take this out, it's going to spill quite a bit of fluid still. So just prepare for that, you know what I'm saying? And I know I should be using gloves, but I was raised by the generation who just got their hands dirty, so I guess that's how we're gonna be today. But yeah, just loosen them all up, and then I'll pull it out for you in a second. So this is the old water pump. I mean, you could just hear how bad it is, but I could spin it. When I spin it, it sounds really, really jankety and ratchety. I was actually looking for the source of the squeaking in my engine. I noticed that it was squeaking and it was moving violently. So here's the new water pump. Look at that. Listen to that. Nothing. It sounds real nice. Real nice like. And then you're actually going to want to clean it up the inside and the surface real good. That way, when you put it back on, you don't get any debris inside of there, and everything just kind of settles in nice. When you reassemble the water pump, you put it back in, it's going to be, you want to screw them on in a star pattern. So I start here, and then I screw on the bottom one, and then I screw on this one, that one, and then that one. And you're going to do it all in a pattern. That way it gets on there evenly and snugly. And the bolts do have a torque rating, but I don't have a torque wrench. But you know, I've tightened bolts like that before, so I know not to pull too much so that you don't strip them or snap them. You just want to get them on nice and snug, and you know, or you can get a torque wrench, either way. But yeah, and so this is the water pump. As you can tell, here, let me. That sounds as bad, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, she ain't in good shape. All right, so once you got those tightened up right, and a good way to tighten up the pulley right here is to just put your screwdriver in there while you tighten these bolts up. Makes it easier. So once you get those tightened up, what you want to do is you want to keep in mind that you remember how to put your fucking belt back on. You want to just get it down on the lower assembly first, and then this part right here will be hanging down, and then you'll take your tensioner and put it that way, and then this will allow you to get the belt on. Remember, remember when you're putting your belt on that you follow along these grooves, okay? Make sure your belt is on there properly. Follow along the grooves and stay in that little silver space for this one right here. Look, I'll show you. Make sure it's following along and it's not overlapping, okay? And there's grooves right here. Make sure that the belt is in those grooves properly. Alright, so a couple things. One, if you didn't cut right there, it's going to be a little difficult to get this bitch back inside. But you're going to be able to do it. You just want to make sure that down there, let's see if I can find something to point with it. You just want to make sure that down there, the shroud pops right back into the little knobs that it's in. There's no screws down there for the shroud, only up top. And you want to get your trans cooler lines in. And once you jimmy the fan on, you essentially want to just do the first step, or the step, you know, when we loosened it, just do that backwards, you know, pretty much just tighten it, bam, bam, and use your pulley holding tool to help you get it on there nice and tight. One thing that I want you to remember, one, is that when you take this out, make sure you don't damage the radiator. Be gentle when you pull it on out. And also, when you put these back on, there's going to be grooves when you undo these, right? Make sure they go right back into the grooves. If they don't go back into the grooves, then sometimes it doesn't seal properly, and then you can have a leak just from that. So make sure you do that. We're going to get that in, and then you want to make sure you plug your fan back in, your fan clutch back in right there, and then we'll fill it with coolant. And there we have it. It's done. She sounds so much better. No more squeaking and squawking. So when you fill it up, just let the engine run with the radiator cap off for a little bit until you can get all the air out of the system. You'll see there's bubbles occasionally. Just bring it up to temperature and you're all set, man.